Afternoon, everyone, and good morning or evening, depending on where you're joining us from across Canada. Thank you for carving out your lunch hour to be here with us today. I'm Jigar Kanjani with Supply Chain Canada West, and I'll be your host for this session. Before we dive in, let me play a quick 1 minute video highlighting who our association is and what we are all about. Let's roll the video. Welcome back, everyone. And for those who have just joined us, welcome to our panel discussion on public procurement, challenges and opportunities. Um, as you saw, Supply Chain Canada's mission is to strengthen Canada's supply chain, and that is exactly what today's session is all about. Before we get into the topic and do a few introductions and everything, a few quick housekeeping notes to get us started. This session is being recorded. The recording and slide deck will be emailed to all registered participants after the webinar. One of the new features that we have incorporated is the report. So there would be a report for this webinar that would be generated, and that report would include all the insights that you would need or that you would be gaining from this webinar into a one-page summary. For CPD credits, this session qualifies for 2 CPD points. For SCMP members in Alberta, this will be added automatically. If you are joining us from other provinces, you'll need to log them manually into the Supply Chain Canada portal. One of the important highlights here is to be mindful that you'll have to attend at least 50% of the session today in order to qualify for CPD points if you want those. And we'll be tracking those attendance through Zoom platform. Also, we have a Q&A button functionality activated on this webinar. You'd be able to find the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom window. So feel free to submit questions throughout the session. And we have a reserved time kept at the end of the webinar to answer all those questions. So we'll get through to as many as we can at the end of the session. As far as today's session format goes, there are 3 10-minute expert spotlight segments. We have 3 panelists, which would be then followed by a 20-minute panel discussion moderated by Alan Poe and a live Q&A session to close us all out. Now, before we begin into the session, I would like to bring on Alan Poe. Alan is the President and CEO of Supply Chain Canada West, where he leads our team in strengthening Canada's supply chain infrastructure through professional training, accreditation, and advocacy. Alan, before joining Supply Chain Canada, Alan spent over 10 years at Suncor in progressive leadership roles, including Director of Category Management for Offshore, Engineering and Construction, and Senior Advisor for SCM Sustainability. Prior to that, he led commercial and strategic sourcing leadership roles at TransAlta, managing assets contributing approximately over $500 million in annual revenue. Alan is also a graduate of Harvard Business School's Executive Leadership Program and their Negotiation Masterclass. So he definitely knows a lot about facilitating high-level conversations. And Alan, with that, I would like to hand over the stage to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jigar. Wow, that's a lot there, and as much as I know, I'm excited to learn a lot more from our special guests that we have today, our panelists as well. Thank you so much for joining us today for today's webinar on public sector procurement trends. It's exciting to host such a large group of professionals from across the country today. And I do want to recognize all of your participation, including from special guests from our public procurement group who are also joining us today in coming together to learn, share, and reflect on our profession as we continue to evolve. Now, the public sector is one of the largest and most influential participants in Canada's economy. Governments, crown corporations, municipalities, universities, health authorities, and even the broader public agencies all collectively procure hundreds of billions of dollars of goods and services and infrastructure every year. These decisions shape markets, enable essential public services, support communities, and influence everything from economic development and innovation to transparency, equity, and public trust. And at the center of the systems are public sector procurement and supply chain professionals, all of you, and across Canada, all of you are navigating an increasingly complex environment, balancing the value for money with policy objectives, managing risks and compliance, engaging diverse supplier markets, and delivering results in an environment of, I believe, truly heightened scrutiny and accountability as well. The work you do matters, not just to your organizations, but to Canadians who rely on effective, responsible public sector services day in and day out, which is why the conversation that we're having today at today's webinar is so important. As Supply Chain Canada, our role is to convene the profession, advance trusted standards, and really strengthen Canada's supply chain, as Jigar mentioned. And for more than a century, our association has served as a national voice of supply chain professionals, earning the trust of members, employers, government, and the public by championing professionalism, competence, and ethical practice. We believe that a strong supply chain profession is truly essential to a strong Canada. And that belief guides our work in professional development, credentialing, thought leadership, and forums like this one today, where practitioners can learn from one another and explore how emerging trends are reshaping our profession. Today's webinar is about more than just identifying those trends, although I'm really excited to hear those trends from our panelists. It's all about understanding how public sector procurement leaders are responding to these trends, what practices are working in different organizational contexts, because no two public sector organization is exactly the same. And then how can we collectively prepare for what's ahead as well? So to guide us on this journey and lend us their expertise, I'm really, really excited to have three trusted public sector leaders joining us today. We're going to start off with Breda, who is a manager of risk and procurement services at Sturgeon County. And I should be moving the picture ahead so that you can all see their wonderful photos here. There we go. And so Breda leads the entire procurement services department for the county. Mark's going to come next. And Mark is the Director of Procurement and Contracts Management Services at MacEwan University. He's got over 30 years of supply chain experience across energy, banking, government, and higher education sectors, so a mix of both public and private sector experience. And finally, we've got Sohrab, who is the Chief Procurement Officer for the City of Edmonton, where he leads an organization overseeing over $3 billion of annual spend across 73 corporate functions. Now, I've asked that all three leaders bring, all three leaders bring tremendous experience in leadership, organization transformation, and public sector expertise. And we're really appreciative of their contribution today. And I've asked that all of the leaders and panelists start us off by providing 10 minutes presentation to reflect on key initiatives affecting their respective organizations and the challenges and opportunities that they see through their lens. So with that, why don't we start off with Breda, and I'll pass the presentation over to you, Breda.
Great, thank you. Well, welcome to Sturgeon County. We're up first. If you don't know where Sturgeon County is and who we are, I just thought I'd set the stage by giving you that information. So we are just above Edmonton. We share borders with St. Albert, Fort Saskatchewan, Parkland, Strathcona, Westlock, Thorhild, Lamont, Lac St. Anne, and Barrhead. So what does that mean? We have lots of neighbors. We have lots of connections. We have lots of touch points in our projects and locations for work. So we're a very collaborative community. There are 38 townships within our borders. There's over 500 kilometers of secondary roads and over 1,000 kilometers of local roads as well. So our program is quite extensive when it comes to capital programming. So when we talk about procurement and risk services, this was really an evolution at the county. So prior to COVID, prior to 2020, Sturgeon County had a very decentralized approach where each department was responsible for their own portfolios and held those risk and procurement functions singularly within their teams. So what does that mean? That meant contract management, that meant vendor management, that meant procurement, going to market, were done differently potentially in each of these departments. So in 2021, I was brought on board to initiate the start of a procurement office, a procurement team. And what that meant was focusing on what we needed to do in people, process, and technology along the way. So 2021, right off of COVID, coming into an environment where technology was coming up to speed was really challenging. So the first thing that we initiated was programs and protocols in place to support remote workers. We integrated bids and tenders as an online bidding platform. Up until that point in time, we were still receiving paper submissions in our process. And as you know, having nobody in the office to be able to stamp or receive or open them properly together in an open space was a challenge. So 2021 was focusing on what we're doing today, what we're doing now, and what we're looking to do tomorrow. So capital procurement came into place, looking at those large initiatives that we could handle in 2021. We started a small claims insurance portfolio as well to support the organization. We started the discovery process on contract management, utilizing the ADCAR model and ProSci for change management. We also started an intermunicipal procurement connection. So I have to acknowledge the wonderful support that we've received from the neighbors I mentioned before, particularly Strathcona County. So we had Shannon and Tanya Pryor, and then in Parkland where we had Terry Lynn. The three of us really connected to understand how our programs were working and evolving together to ensure community collaboration and the opportunity for consistency within our vendor pool, especially those local vendors that we all seem to utilize as well. 2022, we moved over into centralizing that over threshold procurement. So as procurement started in 2021, recapturing everything that moved in trade agreement areas into a centralized system and process. We developed centralized contract management site for development to support internal functions in the organization as well. I can't tell you the amount of internal and external stakeholder engagement that was done over this time. It definitely took a lot of minds and a lot of conversations with people in different teams to understand what people were doing, to minimize disruption to any service, and also take into account any of those small wins or efficiencies that we could develop along the way. 2023 and 2024 were focused on continuous improvement, re-engagement with vendor market, re-engagement with internal teams. We moved into evaluative bid processes as we were seeing the need for quality management and vendor scorecard controls being integrated into our programs. Again, we supported internally that centralized contract management system. We expanded intermunicipal procurement connections. So there are a lot of us on the call today that are a part of this team, and it is a team born of love where we share a lot of our internal information, our lessons learned, our benchmarks, how we approach different procurements. So it has really become a network of intermunicipal procurement teams, not only located in Alberta, we do have some participants that are out in the East Coast as well, and some in BC. So definitely a connection worth fostering and growing further. In 2024, we revised our entire policy. We created a new procurement directive, new procurement procedures, again, constantly evolving over time and transitioning into a better position to support not only the community, but growth within our organization as well. Last year, we launched our under threshold procurement process. So I know we're going to talk a little bit later about capacity and capacity constraints. I would say I've worked in a few organizations in the public sector and in the private sector prior to that. And in the public sector, capacity always seems to be an issue. And capacity is not something that is just specific to procurement teams. But at this time, understanding how we can work in a hybrid model to support teams that are going out for the smaller procurements, the $25,000, the $10,000. So we created and launched a program in 2025 to support that area, as well as continuing to expand and work on our additional integrations in contract management and risk management as well. What I'd like to highlight over this time is our budget. So if I just focus on capital, in 2020, our capital budget was 18 million. This year, we're looking at 63 million. So we're seeing exponential growth that is coming into rural Alberta, that is coming into public sector for infrastructure developments that are at all levels of government. So really important to understand that that growth is going to continue. And to support that growth, we need to evolve and change our programs accordingly. So challenges that we face, they're pretty obvious. Understanding what we do today, who does it, how it works, how it's integrated with each of these teams was a really big deal. I found from my position just being curious and asking questions rather than coming in to an organization and saying, I have a solution, really kind of helped the change management process. I do think that when you find the strongest voice in the room and you find the voices that are the ones that speak to you about the challenges that they've had, they can end up being your strongest champions. So understanding the people side of it in integrated with process and technology was a really big challenge, and one that we continue to have opening up our program even further. Um, I'll save that question for after. I see a question just popped up, but I'll let Jagar manage that one after. But yes, happy to talk about the expansion of our program and the integration within Sturgeon County and our intermunicipal connections as well, because I really feel that that connection and understanding what our neighbors are doing and collaborating is where we're going in the future. Internally, when the program came out, there's resistance. People fear change. Change means something different to everybody. So for us, when we were starting this program, it was really focusing on people and understanding why or where they were coming from. Some people were responsible for certain functions that procurement were taking over. So there's a sense of ownership in that role. There's a sense of identity. So how do we address that sense of identity and still inclusion within the program that's growing? So really understanding where people are positioned, how they're supported through the process were a big deal. How we were successful, we definitely focused on those small wins. So we were, I hate to say it, we were lucky during COVID because technology needed to change, and the only way to change was quick and ferocious. So bids and tenders came on really fast. Nobody really had an opportunity to pause and look at that and go down rabbit holes of the where, the when, the why, because we were in it already. We knew we needed a system that supported that collection of packages for our processes. So as some of the things progressed over time, it was the situation that drove that sense of urgency and that need for change. And then over time, it's been the ability to take the lessons learned from each year and apply them going forward. So what worked in 2021 wasn't going to work in 2022 and so forth. So being open to change, being agile and able to move with your teams in your process was really critical for the success of our rollout in our organization. What I will say for process, technology, and people, consistency in messaging is key. That follows in line with ADCAR, ProSci change management. So reinforcing the information that you're bringing forward, reinforcing the tools to enable people to be successful in their new roles and integration into new processes was really critical. So just constant reinforcement, encouragement, understanding that change is going to be evolutionary over time. And then my last slide are really the areas of opportunity. So I see this as cyclical. So every year we go through this process. So we start the year with supporting tools and resources. We start the year looking at what we have developed today and what lessons learned from the previous year we're going to apply. Then we go into training. So we go out into departments, we train, we talk about what contracts they have coming up. We talk about their capital program for the following year. We ask them for a schedule so we can pre-plan the procurements that we're able to, noting our capacity as well as their capacity in their delivery. Then comes the collaboration. So collaboration, I think, is a nuance that's coming up in procurement and supply chain. No longer are we waiting for a specification to be perfect. We need to start asking questions. We need to start asking clarifications on what they need to see from the end of a process, and that takes collaboration. Sometimes you have a department or you have a client that doesn't necessarily understand all the nuances of what they're asking for. And I think our role has kind of taken on this new side of consultancy, of support, of collaboration that is new in market. Um, the next step is feedback. So every process we take is an opportunity for feedback. Every process we take is an opportunity to give feedback to our proponents, our bidders as well. So we do take that seriously. We want to grow those connections and those relationships within market. We do have review and revisions set in our calendars. So Q4 for us is really specific in looking at the documentation we have, doing any of those updates. Last year was a big year for bill updates. So we had all the changes to privacy regulations. We had anti-slavery. We had all sorts of different regulations come into play that required addition to our documentation. And then again, we're back up to that change and development cycle. So for us, we've kind of identified that this is cyclical. Every year we go through this process. We start with clear information, we reinforce, and we go forward from there. And my last note is that you need to engage more than you think you should. So if you think you're engaging enough with your teams and your clients, take it up a notch and do one extra level above that, because that's where the extra questions come into play, and that's where the areas of opportunity really pop out. So thank you for your time.
Amazing. Thank you, Breda. We'll pass the presentation now to Mark to talk about some of the key initiatives and the opportunities and challenges that he sees at MacEwan University. Mark, I'll pass the presentation over to you.
Good afternoon. I'm happy to join you today and share a bit about MacEwan University. MacEwan University is a vibrant undergraduate institution located in the heart of downtown Edmonton. MacEwan is a board-governed public post-secondary institution operated in Alberta as an undergraduate university under the authority of the Post-Secondary Learning Act. Since 1971, the institution is known for delivering exceptional undergraduate learning and has a rich history in its growth from a community college. The university has officially named Grant MacEwan University by order of council in 2009 and was rebranded MacEwan University as we know it today for communications and marketing purposes in 2013. MacEwan currently supports over 19,000 students and a workforce of 2,600 faculty and staff. As a mid-sized public sector organization, our procurement environment is complex but collaborative. I manage a team of 9 in the Procurement and Contract Management Services Unit. We refer to ourselves as PACS team, overseeing procurement, contract management, vendor relations, and public sector compliance. My team facilitates procurement activity for the university's operating and capital expenditures, typically in the range of 150 to 175 million annually, ensuring value, transparency, and stewardship of the organization's funds. We operate in a hub and spoke model. PACS provides governance and tools, while departments manage vendor relationships and execution. In the broader Canadian public sector landscape, this model is increasingly recognized as a leading practice for balancing institutional oversight with departmental agility. It allows us to maintain a center of excellence mindset, where my team provides specialized knowledge in complex trade agreements, such as the CFTA, as we know, or NWPTA, or New West Partnership Trade Agreement, if you want to say, while empowering our academic and operational partners to drive the specific requirements of their unique portfolios. This foundation is critical as we navigate an era where doing more with less is no longer just a catchphrase, but a strategic imperative. This foundation sets the stage for our modernization journey as sourcing complexity and volumes grow, and digital transformation becomes a non-negotiable requirement for operational excellence. Currently, like many public institutions, our sourcing processes are analog, dependent on emails, spreadsheets, and shared drives. This creates what I call administrative friction and increases the risk of human error. We are now in the process of implementing unit procurement, formerly Bonfire, as many may know it, a leading RFX management platform widely adopted across Canadian public institutions. This is a cloud-based platform purpose-built for the public sector. By moving away from manual workarounds, we are targeting reduction in administrative tasks and in the time required to complete bid evaluations. UNIT enables a digital workflow for market research, competitive sourcing, evaluations, audit trails, and reporting. Procurement staff and evaluators benefit from structured scoring tools, automated notifications, version control, and centralized documentation. From a governance lens, this embeds transparency, traceability, and fairness into every sourcing event, which is essential given that current manual processes are becoming unsustainable under our increasing volumes. Industry-wide, we are seeing a shift towards e-procurement 2.0, where the focus moves from simple document storage to active data utilization. We expect increased throughput, reduced cycle times, improved supplier experience, and scalable sourcing alignment with public sector standards. This isn't just about working faster, it's about working smarter. It enables our team to focus on high-value market research and qualification rather than chasing down missing emails. Most importantly, it helps ensure our processes remain compliant with trade agreements and audit requirements, providing a traceable digital paper trail for every decision made. In many organizations, contract management is often mistaken for contract storage. We are changing that. We all recognize that the value negotiated during contracting is only realized if the contract is managed properly after it is signed. Industry research consistently highlights that organizations can lose significant commercial value, often estimated between 7 and 9% of total contract value, due to poor post-award management. This value leakage typically occurs through unmonitored price escalations, missed service level credits, or simple scope creep. To reclaim this value for MacEwan, we are implementing a new contract management function to lead this change. This is a strategic shift for our PACS team. We are moving from being a department that has traditionally kept records in our contract repository and provides automated expiry alerts to one that actively manages contract obligations. This role represents the evolution of our practice beyond the set it and forget it, mentally toward a holistic life cycle approach. This includes proactive renewal and amendment planning in alignment with our General Counsel's guidance to ensure we remain compliant while maintaining commercial agility. This new role will act as a critical liaison, working directly with contract owners across the university to ensure vendors are actually delivering the quality and service they promised in their contracts. We're moving procurement from a transactional gatekeeper to a performance partner. We are also laying the groundwork for a future contract lifecycle management software solution to replace our current repository that we use. The goal is full flexibility, a single pane of glass for all institutional procurement risk and spend commitments. It's in simple terms, we're moving from being a librarian of contracts to being guardians of contract value. This has been a leading trend in both public and private sectors for some time, where we focus now on shifting towards long-term vendor accountability and proactive risk management. Finally, none of these technical or structural improvements matter if we don't have the trust in our internal stakeholders. At a major PAC's focus for us is deepening engagement with our university partners. Strong procurement outcomes require early collaboration, accurate information, meaningful data, and shared priorities. In many ways, we are moving procurement upstream. In the past, procurement was often viewed as the final administrative hurdle at the end of the project. Instead of being reactive to requests that are already formed, we are positioning ourselves as the strategic partner at the very beginning of the planning and budgeting phase. We are operationalizing this through a more formal engagement model. This includes scheduled touch points with faculty and administrative leaders, the development of multi-year sourcing roadmaps, and a commitment to proactive dialogue. By being in the room during the initial project planning stages, we can offer improved procurement guidance, identify potential consortium buying opportunities, and provide stronger advisory support as departments navigate their unique operational challenges. This isn't just about compliance. It's about early risk identification and cost avoidance before a single document is ever drafted. We're also putting the power of information back into the hands of our leaders. We are enhancing our reporting through data analytics, giving university leadership a line of sight into the sourcing activities, cycle times, and approaching contract expiries. We are shifting the conversation from a purely transactional, what did we buy, to a value-driven, what impact did we create? This reflects a broader public sector trend where the definition of value is expanding. Value is no longer just the lowest price. It is created through strategic partnerships, informed decision-making, and transparent communication across the institution. By cultivating a service-oriented and customer-focused approach, we are building a procurement function that is transparent and, above all, a strategic value add to MacEwan University. Thank you. At this point, I'll hand it over to Sohrab. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you for that, Mark. Amazing presentation on all of the trends that you see there. So, Rob, I'll invite you to come on next and share some of the trends that you see in a large municipality in the city of Edmonton. I'll pass the presentation over to you.
Sure, happy to take it. Hello, everyone. I'm pleased to be here today and walk you through our corporate procurement and supply chain services branch function, our key priorities, some of the challenges and things we are doing in our branch for City of Edmonton. I just want to start the conversation by, sorry, I just need to go back on the previous slide. Giving you some background on the City of Edmonton, in case you are not from Edmonton or you're joining from elsewhere. We are Alberta's capital city. We are one of Canada's fastest growing cities, and we have a young and educated workforce. We are well known for being the home of Edmonton Oilers and for having our huge mall, West Edmonton Mall. We also have a beautiful river valley, as you can see in the picture here, which is 22 times bigger than the size of Central Park and has over 150 kilometers of trails. Edmonton also has a thriving art scene and hosts over 50 festivals annually. At the heart of it, the City of Edmonton is a community of city builders, problem solvers, listeners, and doers. We are a modern municipal corporation serving just over 1 million people and looking to attract and inspire 1 million more. The City of Edmonton goal is to build and maintain a healthy, urban, climate-resilient city that supports a prosperous region. With more than 300 programs and services across more than 70 lines of businesses, our work connects us to almost every aspect of Edmontonians' daily lives. Working together, we are building a thriving, sustainable, and welcoming home for Edmontonians for today and tomorrow. On this slide, I wanted to show you that the City of Edmonton, within administration, has defined 5 interconnected priorities to ensure our actions deliver measurable value, are fiscally responsible, and contribute directly to Edmonton's growth and well-being. These aren't just high-level concepts, they are the foundation of everything we do at the City of Edmonton and guide all decision-making at the city as we are planning for our 2027 to 2030 budget cycle. This applies to my branch as well. Corporate Procurement and Supply Services has reviewed these priorities and has come up with some plan and a strategic direction to align the work we are doing to city priorities and focus areas. As you could see on this slide, there are 5 pillars that we are focusing on as City of Edmonton: safety and security, economic development, growth planning, service delivery, and financial sustainability. So my branch, CPSS, is a vital player in maintaining all these 5 pillars through our day-to-day activities. These priorities just don't guide the city, they are directly guide our branch initiatives and strategic planning that we are doing for the city. In the next slide, I just wanted to quickly show you the 4 main functions that our branch is performing for the city. So we do procurement. Is basically everything city buys is being managed and supported by my branch. We have a designated group of procurement professionals leading the entire end-to-end procurement processes from the time we know there is a need for a procurement to a time that a contract is awarded. We also support contract management function for the city in a centralized setup. This is where we manage corporate, I would say major strategic contracts, and we also support the corporation in managing and interpreting the rest of contractual arrangements we have. Under this group, we have our business sustainment function as well. This is where we are managing and supporting city employees to use SAP Ariba for our day-to-day P2P functions. So the support of that function also is within CPSS, Corporate Procurement and Supply Services shop. We also have our supply chain management group, which is the group that is responsible for providing the required parts for city fleets, including LRTs, buses, and other municipal fleet that city uses. This group deals with forecasting, planning, purchasing, delivery, inventory management, and distribution of parts across the city. And then the last, but obviously not the least function we perform is the corporate compliance and oversight on procurement contract management activities to make sure everything we do, all our procurement, contract management, and supply chain activities are compliant with trade agreements, our bylaws, contract law, and anything else that requires compliance and monitoring from a CPSS lens. At this point, I would like to share you a little bit more about some significant transformational work that is underway in City of Edmonton, CPSS branch, to boost the efficiency, flexibility, and accountability of our supply chain activities. This transformation work began in 2023, focusing on impactful changes across our procurement, contract management, and supply chain management section. This strategic effort involves several key components: modernizing processes by implementing clearer governance, compliance reporting, and standardized contract practices, optimizing the use of technology and enhancing supplier performance to drive organizational success, while actively working toward enhancing supplier performance, compliance, and reporting, ensuring timely parts availability with a strong financial stewardship by optimizing our end-to-end supply chain practices, and maintaining our commitment to sustainable procurement and actively working to remove barriers and foster participation from local, indigenous, and diverse businesses. Given the complexity of this transformation, we are employing a comprehensive and strategic approach for success, which includes thoroughly assessing, analyzing, and reporting on compliance with relevant processes, regulations, and policies, standardizing all operational processes for consistency, ensuring they are kept up to date with best practices and optimizing them for maximum efficiency, facilitating a robust strategic training and development framework to improve knowledge, strategy, and productivity, and proactively identifying and facilitating key improvement activities across the branch and the corporation to drive continuous progress and enhance overall performance of our functions across the city. We are moving from simply processing transaction to providing true strategic oversight for the entire corporation. This strategy is the blueprint for this transformation work. It shows that success in one area enables success in another. The map is organized into 4 categories. So we have developed this map to support our a strategic focus on our transformation work. So the main area of focus, people and knowledge, that focuses on internal stability and external capacity. Achieving our strategic initiatives hinges entirely on having an engaged, skilled, and supported team. This focus area is designed to ensure internal stability by closing critical potential knowledge gaps and simultaneously building external capacity through developing vendor resources. Taking a look at our current technology and system, we know we must continue digitize our assets and empower ourselves with data decision-making. By investing in automation, we can link our physical inventory directly to our financial system, SAP. This connection eliminates guesswork, ensuring that our decisions are based on accurate data. The core function of CPSS is to act as the city's shield against any potential external risk, safeguarding the rest of the organization. This requires adherence to regulation to maintain integrity, prevent any concerning behavior observation, and ensure fair processes, and effectively manage complex trade mandates. Consequently, improvements in policy and compliance are essential to mitigate risk and ensuring the integrity of our work. Enhancing our operation and processes is key to shifting from a reactive approach to a proactive one. By standardizing our work and adopting strategic methodologies, we can eliminate administration inconsistencies and transform our purchasing practice into proactive strategic supply chain. Each priority feeds next. Better technology allows for a smoother operation. Skilled people ensure better compliance. And as we work toward these goals, every improvement we make helps us in delivering better services to our partners and achieving integrated impact across the city. So you have already seen a picture, a map of our transformation journey. I thought, well, which of those I want to highlight for the discussion, and I decided to pick one from each section of our organization, our branch. So I'm going to highlight one, a strategic focus on procurement, one from contract management area, and one from supply chain. So in terms of sustainable procurement, I think many of you may probably have heard about City of Edmonton's Sustainable Procurement Program. So I thought to speak about this program a little bit. The intent of our program is to leverage the city's procurement processes to produce social and environmental benefits to the community. The expected outcome for the social value. So as you could see in this picture, in the core of our work, we have our sustainable procurement policy, our sustainable procurement program, and around it, there are some pillars that support the policy, and then there are some tools and some program frameworks that support the entire implementation of our sustainable procurement policy. So I speak to those quickly. The expected outcome for the social value and indigenous pillars include enhancing social, cultural, and economic opportunities for our communities through procurement. The expected outcome for the environment pillar include emission management, energy efficiency, waste reduction, water reduction, and pollution reduction. The expected outcome for the ethical pillar include ensuring safe and healthy workplaces for the people who make and supply goods and provide construction, intellectual property rights, and services for the city. And this program ensures that city maintains its integrity as a public institution by contracting only with suppliers who support ethical business practices. And you have ways to confirm that is happening. We do monitoring, we do audit to ensure our supply chain, our entire supply chain are compliant with our values, our sustainable procurement goals. So I will quickly speak to some of those frameworks that I have listed on this slide as well, that again, as I mentioned, support the implementation of our policy at specific to branch and corporate levels. The social procurement framework and the indigenous procurement framework guide the procurement processes to achieve the program desired outcomes by enabling the City of Edmonton to include specific social procurement and indigenous procurement criteria in its procurement selection and award decision criteria. The community benefit agreement framework will enforce a specific social value outcomes, such as hiring, training, or procurement on construction, infrastructure, and development projects to ensure projects enhance social, cultural, environment, and economic opportunities for the community. The diversity spend reporting framework will identify how the city will track the diversity of city supplies against social value consideration of the policy, and the outcome of that work is being reported to the City Council annually. The measurement and reporting framework will use an outcome-based measurement and reporting process to report on the progress of the program. We also proud to have an indigenous set-aside approach with the goal of increasing direct and subcontracting spend with indigenous businesses. That program has been in place for a year now, and we have had a few good examples of success, being able to award contracts directly to eligible indigenous businesses, addressing the barriers in that space, and supporting our partnership with indigenous businesses. In addition to those frameworks, there are some tools that we have also developed that help the City of Edmonton continue to navigate its proactive involvement in sustainable procurement activities. So we have a sustainable procurement low value purchase guideline that was introduced in 2023. And this guideline provides instruction to city staff on when and how to include social, indigenous, and sustainable consideration for low value procurement decision. In our definition, low value is aligned with New West Partnership Agreement threshold. So anything below 75,000 in the city is considered low value. And we identify that space as one of the areas that we could support sustainable procurement. It is not limited to that, but we have specifically developed this because we believe there is a good opportunity to support those businesses and those purchases in contracts lower than 75. We have also developed a menu of sustainable procurement that it's a menu of options of evaluated criteria and contractual requirements that is being provided to city staff. Contractual requirements include hiring indigenous or equity deserving employees, hiring apprentices, purchasing from indigenous businesses, diverse-owned businesses or social enterprises, and environmental consideration. And city staff and procurement staff, they work collaboratively together to pick and choose from the menu and add them to their procurement activities. There is more to this, but I'm going to leave it to this. I have a couple of more slides to go through, but again, probably Alan, you and I talked about it. Sustainable procurement at the city. At some point, it may require specific discussion.
Oh, absolutely. You know, some of the work that you're doing and the team over at the City of Edmonton, I have to applaud you guys for the effort and how you're sort of moving the bar. And I think it's going to be a basis of a future webinar for you to come back and dive into this into detail. And you don't know it yet, but I'll be reaching out to you to see if you'd be interested in speaking at our upcoming Supply Chain Canada West conference. And I would sort of see this as a wonderful segment. I know we're running short on time, so maybe at this point in time, Jigar, if you can maybe take off the shared screen, and I'll invite the rest of the panelists.
So Alan, so just that I don't leave it unanswered, I just wanted to mention the topics of the other two things I wanted to do, but then we can just get into the other two. So I talked about sustainable procurement, but the other two things that I wanted to highlight as of area of focus was supplier performance management program, which we have recently augmented and introduced under our contract management team. And highlighting a supply chain transformation work that is happening, specifically focusing on our parts supply chain and activities there. I know the slides will be shared, so you can go through them and then reach out if you have any questions. Sorry, just needed to make sure I finish the topics,
so awesome.
But I'm not going to get into the details.
And all of you, the crazy thing is that we've got three amazing leaders present, and all of you are chief procurement officers of your respective organizations, and consistently every organization, every leader is going through transformation, and that transformation is a reaction to really the need of the business and of the organization, and their increasing expectation of our procurement organizations and our professionals. And so maybe with that, then why don't we invite everyone back on to turn on their cameras, the panelists. And I'm just going to wrap up a few questions here at the end because we're closing in on time. And I see there's some questions in the audience as well. So the one thing that we hear often is the challenge of balancing policy objectives with a value for money. And we know public procurement is increasingly asked to deliver on many of the things that Sohrab just mentioned there, right? Social, economic, and environmental outcomes, in addition to value for money. Maybe we start off with Mark. How is your organization balancing these expectations in practice?
Well, balancing economic, environmental, and social objectives with value for money is becoming more common in the public sector, as you mentioned. But it needs to be done with discipline. And in a MASH environment where we have to operate with the non-discrimination principles embedded in the trade agreements. So our approach has to be thorough, thoughtful, and functional. We can reward outcomes, but we can't create barriers. At MacEwan, we interpret value broadly, quality, risk, life cycle, long-term performance, and cost. They all matter to us just as much as price. Our move toward better contract management is an example. That's where environmental or social commitments can be reinforced.
There's a lot there, and I'm going to put Sohrab in the hot seat. Like, okay, so hearing what Mark just described there, like how do you, Sohrab, in your organization prevent policy objectives from overcomplicating procurement or slowing down delivery? It's always that balance, and how do you work that in your organization?
Yeah, great question, Alan. I think the approach we took at the City of Edmonton was a phased approach towards implementing social and sustainable procurement criteria into our procurements. So I think we approached it from a lens of we don't want to change everything overnight, but we want to allow the market to respond to our expectations and our requests based on their capacity. So a few years ago, when I was brought into work with the City Council and work with the administration to implement the sustainable procurement program for the city, we didn't start right away by the but I would say by the complex menu we have today. It's a very sophisticated menu. We have reviewed all the trade agreements and our legal obligation, and we believe within all those complexities, there are still room to support local, social, and underrepresented groups in procurement activities, especially Indigenous partners. So we have achieved that. But again, my point was we were not where we are today 4 or 5 years ago. We started by asking broad questions in our procurements to understand the market capacity and responsiveness in this space. So questions like, hey, if you're a bidder and you want to work for the city, can you tell me what you're currently doing in support of those potential community development goals or sustainable procurement goals? And we started learning through our procurements about the capacity in the market. And what we realized was not all our areas of business, as I mentioned, cities in 73 line of businesses are at the same level of maturity in doing sustainable procurement. We realized in some areas, for example, major infrastructure delivery projects, there's already a ton that is happening in the industry, and there are some areas and some businesses that they're not doing much. So taking that lens and spending a couple of years on those generic questions helped us inform our market capacity and ability to respond to our procurement processes. And then depending on what we saw from the industry, we transition more into, okay, now in construction, we can do community benefit agreements. We can ask for specific numbers and targets on Indigenous hiring apprentices. And for some, we still need to take a step-by-step approach to get the industry to that point. So I think to answer that question, I believe being thoughtful about industry capacity and not necessarily just through procurement function or through RFPs, but also through engagement with association like Supply Chain Canada or other stakeholders in the market. We learned about, okay, how we should still do this, but be thoughtful about not creating a situation, as you mentioned, Alan, to affect our service continuity and those important components.
Yeah, thank you for that, Sohrab. And maybe still consistent with that theme, we again, organizations under pressure move faster while maintaining transparency and fairness. Mark talked about the use of UNA as a technology or a platform to drive speed and accountability. I'll shift it to yourself, Breda. What changes, process, governance, or mindset has helped your team become more agile without increasing risk onto the business?
Agility is the name of the game in how we operate. So I think we have a unique opportunity, unlike the city of Edmonton and MacEwan, where we're a small team. So we're able to move faster when change hits or when the request for change hits. It's not as slow moving through the organization, just for sheer size, right? I do think that policy, procedures, they become easier to be more effective when you change them with that state in mind. So if you're thinking of like, how is my policy today restrictive? How are my procedures today restrictive in supporting what my teams need to be successful or my clients need to be successful? That's where you start. So it's almost like doing your critical path, your backwards pass to see where you've got your barriers and plan for that. So for Sturgeon County, we had a policy in place that was very restrictive and that didn't allow for change easily. It was going back up to council for revision. So how do we break that out and make it more agile and useful in teams so that we can make those changes when we need to, when market comes, when tariffs hit, when trade agreements change, when we're asked to be more responsive to adding policies like sustainable procurement and social procurement. So it kind of starts with the end game in mind. So where do you need to be? Look at what you have, do a work back, and then make those integrations and changes to allow for that flexibility and agility in your programs.
I love it. Guys, I have a ton of other questions. I am so eager to ask you. Unfortunately, our time is running up, and I'll put the three of you on the spot again. Like, there's so much to dive into the things that you've shared with all of us today. There's a question from the audience around Canadian sovereignty and how this affects our procurement practice. So I was going to spend a whole chunk of time to talk about, the Buy Canada initiative and how your respective organizations are reacting to it. But recognizing that we are running out of time, I'd suggest if you guys are open to it, I would love to have a follow-up webinar and invite everyone here back for a deeper dive into those topics. But we always start on time and we finish on time. So maybe as we wrap up today's webinar, I want to extend a sincere thank you to all of you, the panelists, for sharing your experiences, your perspective, and practical insights. And then to all of you participants who are joining us from across the country. I think the discussion to me today reinforces the important work of the public sector procurement and supply chain professionals and the success of our organizations, our communities, and public services Canadians rely on day in and day out. Your role continues to grow in complexity and impact. We see it. And as an association, we want to thank you for the work that you do, for being a part of our community. And I'm really excited to have a follow-up webinar so that we can continue this conversation and support all of you in navigating what's ahead to strengthen Canada's supply chains. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Sohrab. Thank you, Breda. Thank you, Jigar. Thank you, everyone. And excited to send out the report out to everyone and a copy of the presentation. And I look forward to having all of you come back so that we can have this ongoing dialogue with our panel of experts. Have a great afternoon, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.